Hey there, this is Anthony from mycodeteacher.com, and in this lesson I'm going to show you how to make a table view editable, meaning you can delete rows from the table view. So this is going to be a relatively simple lesson. Really, we're just going to create a basic table view. We're going to have a plus button for insert, a edit button for setting the table view to edit mode, and then there we'll see each row with a circle minus button, and then clicking that will show the delete button, and then clicking delete will remove the row from the table view. So let's get started. So I've got Xcode open. Let's create a new project, window based. So in another lesson you'll see how to use a table view controller, UI table view controller, to do all this, and there we'll make a more editable table view. But this is really just a simple lesson, so we'll do everything ourselves. So we'll start off with nothing but the window, and we'll see how we can take that. So editable table view. Okay, so of course the first thing we want to do is open up mainwindow.zib and create the table view. Okay, so let's get that table view up here first. But we also want a navigation bar for the insert and edit buttons. So let's get the table view up there next. Okay, and then we need to set the data source of the table view. So let's right click and drag to the editable table view app delegate instance here in the instance window, connect data source. Now let's add the plus and edit buttons. So we'll put the plus button on the right, custom add. So we've got this custom identifier here, basically a preset button with this nice plus button, so we don't have to create our own graphics. Yeah, same thing here, and the preset edit. Alright, so there's another preset done, and we're going to want to switch to that when the table goes into editing mode. So we're going to have to switch back and forth, basically toggle editing mode for the table view, and each time change the edit button appropriately. So if we're in editing mode, we want the button to say done. If we're not in editing mode, we want it to say edit. So by default, of course, we don't. This table view is not going to be in editing mode, so we want it to say edit. So now let's save this, and let's go back to Xcode, and let's get some IB actions going for the two buttons we just added in the navigation bar. So IB action insert. Now this is going to be really simple. We're not going to allow the user to enter anything or really actually edit what's in the cell. We're just going to make it so they can add rows, and we'll fill in what the row says, and then we'll make it so they can delete rows. And again, in a more complex lesson, I'm going to show you how to make a fully editable table view using the table view controller, where you can edit the text in the row, insert, and make custom table view cells and whole nine yards. So don't fret if that's what you're looking to do. Toggle edit. So we've got our insert for inserting and toggle edit for switching the editing mode. So if it's not in editing mode, put it in editing mode. If it is, take it out of editing mode. So let's connect those appropriately. So edit button, gonna link to toggle edit, and the plus button is going to call to the insert action. So now I can save. Alright, so we're gonna need an array, a mutable array, to store the objects in the table view. So we're going to do all of our inserting and deleting there, and then we're just going to, basically the table view's job is really just to make a graphical representation of what's in data. So data stores the actual information, and the table view just shows it to the user and allows them to use the user interface to modify it. So by default, we're going to have an NSMutable array with nothing in it. So in the application did finish launching method, is right when the application starts up, we're going to create an NS mutable array with no objects, so just alloc in it, so it's empty, and then we set that in data. So now data stores this empty array. So now let's implement our data source method. So the first one is, of course, number of sections in table view. We want a constant 1, so we only want one section here. Then table view, number of rows in section. So we want to return data count, so the amount of objects in the data array. And then last, of course, is table view, cell for row at index path. Okay. So equals. So first, of course, we want to check to see if the table view has already used a cell, the identifier cell, so that's what we're going to use. If not, let's create that cell for reuse. So we're just going to go with the default style with the large black label. First on auto release. Okay, now we're going to set the text labels text, which of course is a large black label, to simply the object in the data array at this particular row. The data array is just going to store a bunch of strings, so that works out fine, and then we're going to return the cell. Now if we build this, we will see, well, first we're going to get some warnings because we didn't finish implementing all the methods that are listed in the header, but more importantly, of course the table view is going to be empty because it's checking to see how many rows are in data for its amount of rows it should display, but by default data stores nothing. It's an empty array. Right? So we can actually crash the application by pressing either one of these buttons, so let's do that. Okay, so the application froze, as it should have. So now we want to implement the insert and edit methods. First we'll do insert. Now we need some way of reloading the table view. We need to create an outlet to the table view. So IB outlet UI table view main table view. Save, go to interface builder. Let's connect this outlet so we have access to the table view we created here in interface builder from our code. And then go back to the insert method and let's finish that. So we want to data add objects. We want to add a string to the data array. So we're going to create a string with format. So it's just going to say row, and then that %d is going to be replaced by the number of objects in the data array plus 1. Right? And then we want to reload the table view. So of course, this %d, we're creating a formatted string. So this method here, NSString, string with format, this whole thing is returning a string, and then that's going to be added to the data array. So this %d is going to be replaced by whatever comes after the comma, and of course that's data count, so the amount of objects in the data array plus 1. So build this. So now we can insert as we want. Now we need to make it so that we can edit the table view. So let's close this. So first we want to just make it so we can put the table view in editing mode, and that means that it shows the editable icon, so the by default, the minus button, you can also set it to a plus button. So there's two types of editing, or there's three types of editing modes. Which first is editing none, so the row is not editable. Second is delete editing style, which is with the circle, the minus button, or the minus symbol in a red circle, and then the last is the insert, so a plus symbol in a green circle. And again, the default is delete, so we don't have to set that. We're not going to change it. So IB action toggle edit. All right. So first, we want to toggle the button. So if it's in editing mode, we want it to say done. If it's not, we want it to say edit. So right item. I need to use a UI bar button item. So if main table view editing, so there's a property called editing, and that lets us know if it's in editing mode. Now, when you set a table view to editing mode, it sends messages. It redraws itself completely from top to bottom, and so it reloads itself, and it sends. While it's doing that, it sends messages to all of its table view cells, all of its rows, alerting them that they should also go into editing mode. So each row is allowed to have its own, unique editing style. So you can have one row in a table view be an insert style, while another's a delete, while another is none. You just have to use some other methods to determine. We want them all to be the delete style. So all of them we want to be set to delete editing style. All right. So basically, what we're doing is we're triggering a chain of events. We tell the table view to edit, it tells its cells to edit, and then the cells are editable. Alright, so if it's editing, we want to create a done button and put that in the top left. So right item equals UI bar button item alloc init with bar button system item UI bar button system item done. So basically, this is a method that allows us to use one of those presets. So init with bar button system item, and then you use one of these constants here. We're going with UI bar button system item done. This is a constant that creates a done bar button item. Target self, and then we want it to call to the toggle edit action here. So target is the object we want it to send a message to when it's pressed, and action is the message or method we want it to call to when it's pressed. So basically, this is saying send to this object here, table view app delegate, or the editable table view app delegate, the toggle edit message or action. Else, if the table view is not in editing mode, we want it to have a button that says edit. So UI bar button item alloc init with bar button system item UI bar button system item edit. So another constant self, and the same thing. We also want it to call to the toggle edit here. Now we need some way of setting or giving this new button to the navigation bar. Now you don't actually give bar button items to navigation bars themselves, but you give them to their navigation items. So we have something called a UI navigation item. So let's look that up in the documentation. UI navigation item. Okay, so the UI navigation item class encapsulates information about a navigation item pushed on a UI navigation bar object stack. So basically, this is just going to store some information that the navigation bar uses to display whatever we want the navigation bar to display at a particular time. Right? So it's really just data, and the navigation bar's job is to create a graphical representation of that data. So we need to create an outlet so we can connect and give this to the navigation bar's item. UI navigation item, nav item. Save this, and now let's go to Interface Builder. Drag and connect to the navigation bar. Now, even though we're dragging to a navigation bar, Interface Builder is smart enough to know that since the type of this Interface Builder outlet is navigation item, it knows that we are trying to connect to the navigation item that exists within the navigation bar. So kind of basically assumes that, which saves us some time and effort. And now we can give this new item to the navigation bar or navigation item. So nav item right bar button item. So we have a property for a navigation item called the right bar button item. Actually, we want this to be left. So there's a left and there's left title right. There's a few others, back button, but we just want to deal with this one here. So nav item left bar button item, and then we're going to give it the left. Actually, let's fix that. Okay, the new button that we created. So let's set that, and now it will update. And now let's close this. The last thing we need to do, though, of course, is up top here. We need to actually toggle the editing state of the table view. So main table view, set editing, not main table view editing. So basically, this exclamation point means logical not, so it switches the value of main table view editing. So if main table view editing is yes, then we're going to set editing to the opposite of yes, which is no. Otherwise, set it to yes, and animated yes. So we want this to have a nice animation when it goes into editing mode. So let's build this and take a look. Okay, so let's add some rows here. Click edit. Right, so you notice the minus buttons enclosed in a red circle. They slide in from the left. The values, row 1, row 2, etc., slide to the right a little bit to fit these, and then the edit button changes to done, and so on and so forth, right? So now we need to actually make it so that when you press delete, it actually deletes a row. So of course it doesn't actually do anything yet. So we want to get that working. So let's go to the documentation, take a look at the data source, UI table view data source protocol. We have a method here, table view commit editing style throughout index path. So basically, when someone presses the delete button, the table view is going to call to this, and it's your job to carry out the deleting of the row. So what we'll need to do two things. First, we will need to delete the object at that row from the data array, and then we're going to want to use a table view method to swipe out or use some animation to remove the row, just to make it look nice. So let's close this and let's implement that method. So table view commit editing style editing style for row at index path ns index path. Alright, so again, first data, we want to remove the object at the index path given, so the index path that the user pressed the delete button at. So remove the correct object, and then we have a method here, table view delete rows at index paths ns array with object index path, and then row animation UI table view row animation left. Okay, and then we're done. So what we've done here is we've called to the delete rows at index paths with row animation method, and this first parameter here, delete rows at index paths plural, takes an array of index path objects. So we only have one row to delete, but of course you could make it so that multiple rows are deleted simply by adding more objects to this array. So we're just going to create an array with just the one index path that the user clicked the delete button at, and then it asks us basically what kind of animation. So there's top, left, right. So I've always liked left. I thought it looked nice when the row swipes out from the left, so I use the UI table view row animation left constant. And now let's build this and take a look at what happens. So add some rows, click the edit button, and just like that, the rows are deleted from the array and swiped out. Do as many times as we want. But it works quite nicely. It's really not even that hard to implement. So you can do this with really any table view cells objects you want. You can make your own. It still works. You can customize this any way you'd like. The editing is not hard to do. The animations and everything and all the graphics are really put there for you. You just have to make it work. So basically just kind of like putting pieces of a puzzle together and just building it. So that concludes this lesson on editing a table view, the deleting rows portion anyway. I'm Anthony from mycoteacher.com. I hope you learned a lot and I hope you enjoyed this lesson. Thanks for watching.